Vinny, can you hear me?
No.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I can hear you. Hold up, I can hear you.
All right, we're gonna turn it over to you for the agenda.
Okay. First on the agenda is ordinance regarding signage is being used to further define the right-of-way when it comes to placing of signs on city property, etc. Second item is an ordinance regarding the Jobs for Blue program, which is addressing simply that the service fee, which is assessed by the company, Jobs for Blue, is not being added to the city and instead is being paid for by the client. Item number 3 is a resolution in support of the state allowing registered nurse license plates. It's just basically an endorsement for so that farmers can get license plates that are similar to vanity plates that other organizations have, you know, such as the Garden State one with vegetables, there's a police officer one, those type of things. So this is just a resolution that is in support of letting nurses get their own set of plates. Last item I have is the CSO Stormwater and Parks update. So I will turn that over to Mr. Westra from Project Management and Engineering.
You're up, Ryan.
Good evening, everybody. Here to present the sewer improvement park update for November 1st. The CSO surcharge construction status, Clay Street, contract 2, that is from Fashini to the river. The contractor, the crane has been constructed and they're working on the sheet piles for the coffer dam. It's just about wrapped up and they can begin the construction of the outfall. Contract 3, PSC&G is still on site working on relocation, the gas services and reconnection of the main on Park Street to allow for the sanitary and storm construction. Continuing installation of stormwater infrastructure on Park Street, and to date, the 36-inch ground concrete pipe and the 53 by 34 elliptical pipe are currently being installed. Non-CSO, we had a little setback at the Voorhees pump station. The slide rail shoring system that the contractor installed was not performing adequately, so they had to remove that, backfill, and now they're coming up with another sheeting design that's currently being reviewed. So we're kind of stalled on that project for a little bit.
We working on that one.
That's Fletcher Creek. The completion date probably won't get altered just because we're waiting on the equipment anyway. So we'll keep you updated at the next meeting. Like I said, the contractor has presented an alternate design that our engineers are reviewing. And then park update, Stive, the gazebo was finally delivered on site last week, so that's good. The contractor is continuing with stamped concrete as well as the sidewalks in and around the park itself, and the gazebo, and then hopefully the next few weeks we'll be wrapped up.
Good.
I would think 3 to 4 weeks, probably the end of the month, we should be wrapped up. Hopefully, they show up. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, I've been leaving motion open to the public, but before I do so, Vinny, did you want to give your statement? Ready?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I know, although I can't see them, I apologize that I'm not there. However, I do have COVID, and I don't want to jeopardize anybody in council or anybody in the audience. I'm just about done with it, but that's the reason why I'm on Zoom. Otherwise, I would be there in person. I know we have a lot of firefighters that are in the audience, even though I can't see them. But there's just a couple of things that I'd like to say before They make it up to do whatever they have to do concerning the safety grant, which I assume is why they're here. I just, couple things in a bullet point form. Before this grant was even filed, the Hackensack Fire Department was a rated Class 1 fire department by the Insurance Service Office, ISO, representing a superior level of fire protection. In a nutshell, as we all know, we have some of the best firefighters and the best fire department in the state, if not the country. Let's Hall, which is formerly the Rogers Group, was contracted with us recently to complete an assessment of the fire department, made numerous recommendations for consideration. Nevertheless, they noted that the fire department provides excellent and wide range of services to the city. The current staffing levels of the Hackensack Fire Department, which are 18 on duty, meets and exceeds the NFPA standards, which is 17 for response to a moderately sized residential structure fire. For responses to fires occurring in large complexes, multi-story structure, and other target hazards, of course, like our hospital, the Bergen County Jail Act, for example, implementation of automatic aid agreements with adjacent career fire departments have been recommended to assure additional fire suppression resources are responding on initial response to the IPR. Similarly, high rises, according to the NFP, is in the 27 to 42 member range of firefighters to initially respond. It is quite possible there's not a city in the state that has their own staffing levels at this number, to have an initial response by their own fire department that would meet these NFPA standards. This has been confirmed by the group that we contracted to do this study. While the Hackensack Fire Department's suppression and prevention efforts contribute significantly to the community's safety, along with enhanced fire protection requirements in the new building construction renaissance taking place in this city, there are no guarantees for absolute safety. We all know that. The local elected officials rely on a field of professionals, reports, and expertise to make responsible determinations and acceptable levels of ability for the city and the taxpayers that we serve. That's all I have to say, Mayor. I just wanted to get that out to everybody.
All right.
And again, I apologize for not being able to be there in person.
No, feel better. Okay. With that, I need a motion to open to the public.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Von Rudenberg. Aye. Deputy Mayor Canestrino. Aye. Councilmember Pataglia.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor LaBrus.
Aye. Anybody from the public like to speak, please come forward. Give your name to the clerk. Leonard? Frank? Frank?
You have the report?
Can we put it in a drawer? No, he said,
Yeah.
I put it in that one. Yeah.
You're up, sir.
Justin Jonah. Hackensack Professional Firefighters, local president.
Can you guys hear him back there?
No, can you fix them up?
Stop the time.
Sorry, guys.
Try it now.
Hello.
Try it a little louder.
Hello.
Can you hear it, guys? All right. Talk as loud as you can.
Lift it up, so. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Justin Jonah, president, Hackensack Professional Firefighters Union president. Nothing is more important to the members of the city and council than I am keeping our residents safe, and we are incredibly proud of this job and men and women of the Hackensack Fire Department what they do each and every day. That's support from you, Mr. Mayor. How can you say this while turning down $2.4 million of free, unmatched federal money? The SAFER grant intends to improve and restore fire department staffing and deployment so they may effectively respond to emergencies as they occur in the city. This enhanced staffing should show a reduction in response times and increase the number of trained personnel assembled at an incident. Yet this is what you are turning down, $2.4 million of free money. The fire department budget is $14 million, with only 2% of that going to operational expenses to include rig testing, hose testing, and necessary equipment purchases throughout the years. You guys took $70,000 of that 2% of our budget for a report from the Rogers Group to survey our fire department. Ironically, today the city puts out a press release about utilizing this study to implement an automatic aid. Have you spoken to the Englewood or Teaneck fire departments about this automatic aid plan that you guys are saying will help the city? Is there a reason you did not address in your press release the fact that the city should have 43 firefighters on scene for a high-rise or mid-rise fire that the Rogers report that you guys paid for did express? Our members are aggressive and well-trained in our jobs, much so to the point where one firefighter often has to do the job of several firefighters because of our low staffing. Adding 3 firefighters per shift exponentially increases safety and the life survivability of firefighters and the civilians on the fire ground. The Rogers Group study that you used our operating budget money on also read that the comment that we did not staff our fires on 1 to 2.5, 1.5 and 2.5 story frame dwellings, much what the city is not staffed with. The fire department as a whole utilizes over $1 million in federal grants for the past 3 years. Turning down this grant with the same system of award management number that the city uses for other federal grants would have detrimental adverse effects for the city receiving anything else in the future federal grant. Also avoiding the fact that there are grants for attention to these potential new hirees after the 3-year mark that the city is growing on. A poignant effect that, as a city should know, we need to be. We are looking at the potential growth of 3,500 units, as well as the population growth of 10,000 citizens in the city of Hackensack. That is an increase of 16% of residential units and up to 20% increase of the population. Almost all these residential.
Do you want to have somebody continue with yours? You can bring somebody else up to read the rest if you want. How much more do you have?
A little bit.
Lengthwise?
2 minutes, minute.
Council?
Well, yeah, I mean, excuse me, sorry, I got a frog in my throat here. I think you can agree to extend with the understanding that, you know, hey, there's a lot of people here and the expectation is that there's not going to be repetitive comments from the entire crowd here saying essentially the same thing. I think it's within your discretion, you know, to allow him to continue. And again, it doesn't mean that other folks can't speak, but, you know, you can't be repeating the same thing again and again. It's got to be something new.
Perhaps because he's the president.
Yeah.
So you're going to summarize for most folks, and I would be all right, John.
Fine, continue. Go ahead.
The increase of these, almost all these residential units are in the form of multi-story and multi-unit dwellings. These are much more difficult for a fire department to fight a fire in. They are also much more time-consuming just to investigate an alarm within. This leaves the residents in the city much more vulnerable while we deal with these calls in these new buildings that you guys are championing throughout Main Street and the rest of the city. These are the hurdles as the council has presented to us, but they're not helping us tackle. Less than 19% of the time of our department shows up is below the NFPA recommendation to have a certain amount of firefighters on scene. That is also in your report that you guys get paid for. The CFO's financial analysis failed to show that the 7 firefighters who age out must retire in the 10-year analysis. Also not included was a potential $1.5 million in saving on overtime if you guys accept this grant. We have, over the 3-year time, we have 34 firefighters who can retire in the 5 years. We average 4.3 retirements a year. Projecting 10 years with 0 retirements is not only wrong, it's borderline criminal to the extent of what it causes. 2 firehouses were deemed functionally obsolete in the report, engines 1 and engine 5, in the report that you guys paid for. We also have structural issues within engines 5 and engines 2 with the structural steel that they are supported by. You conveniently left that out of the press release, as though you only responded to the Rogers Report group of using automatic aid. We have also been approved for 2 new engines in 2019, but that has not happened. In 1990, we have a 1992 rig that we bought from another career department. All we want to know is, how can you say that nothing is more important than the member's safety, while at the same time, when you have the money and the allocations to help us, you are not turning that into it. $49 million in the bank, $7 million cash on hand, but obviously you guys are putting a price on safety by not accepting this grant.
Next person from the audience, please.
John Hines, Hackensack Fire Officers, Union President. Mayor and Council, I'd like at this time for you to ask that you reconsider accepting the safer grant. The money saved on overtime, which you guys can completely complain about all the time, will be saved and can free up money to fix the firehouses. We all know that the firehouses are in bad shape. We also know that there are retention grants out there. If you're worried about not being able to pay for this afterwards, you can apply for a grant for retention. The manpower in this fire department hasn't changed since 1995. When I got hired, there was 97 guys in the fire department. We are now 101. We've gone up 4 people. You guys have touted that you're building this city. This city is built, in the last 10 years, have gone over 5,000 new units, and there's plenty more being built. And you guys are touting, as Mr. Mayor said, he's happy that our manpower can handle that. Our manpower can't handle that. 2 of you live in houses that we can't cover under NFPA standards. And we're sitting here being said, no, we don't need this 12 guys. We're just gonna go mutual aid. Mutual aid that's cut off by the river. And there's only 6 places that they can get across. 2 of them are major highways that we know that are absolutely crazy during rush hour and holidays. The other ones are cut off by a river with small bridges. One, the TNX Fire Department can't come across. So we know they can't get there. That's 3 down right off the bat. I don't understand why we're not getting that. Our firehouses are in disrepair. That money can be saved and put into our firehouses. I don't understand that. But you guys are happy with the manpower we have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person, please. Somebody? Anybody else from the public want to speak at all? Need a motion to close the public? Oh, sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ken.
My name is Kenneth Martin, Hackensack. And I'd just like to just speak briefly on 2 subjects. One subject very close to my heart is our police department and juvenile division. As you know, I was the first SRO in the state, and Hackensack was the first to start to have a police officer at the high school, which they call a high school officer. When I came in, I turned the program around and actually interact with the kids, and it became really big. And and now throughout the state we have that program. With that said, I'm asking that not to disband our juvenile division. I was in that division for 24 years, and there was a lot that was accomplished in that division. We built a beautiful bridge between the schools and the police department. And with our juvenile detectives, although you have SROs, those juvenile detectives still investigate the crimes that is reported within the school. As such, if a student reports something to a counselor as a sexual assault, we will call in the juvenile detectives who would respond and answer to that call. So that's why it's important to keep those detectives in the juvenile division where the juvenile division is located, which to my best knowledge, if nothing haven't changed, the juvenile division is supposed to be separate from the public because of their age. And that's why the department is built the way the police department is built the way it is. You have the juvenile division isolated away from the adult public. And we also use, if we take into custody a juvenile, we use the back stairwell. We don't go through the front door. So our department is really set up for our juvenile division to give that privacy to our juveniles and to the parents. So when they do enter and exit that building, no one's not seeing what's going on. That juvenile division is very important. It's not only to the police department, but to the community and schools at large. So we could look at that a little more, please. Again, that's very close to my heart. You always had good commanders, because I always stay in touch with them. And as we speak now, you have a very good commander who really care about that division. And in my opinion, dealing with them, and I do still deal with the police department and the city of Hackensack, as well as your city manager, who used to be my commander in the RDF. So you have good things going there. So just keep a mind on that. And if you could give me like 2 more seconds. Sure. About our fire department. I always praise our fire department, who does an excellent job and receiving awards throughout the state. They asked him to keep this grant because when I was hired on a community grant, along with, there was 15 of us. And out of that 15, 10 of us was on that community grant. And it sounded like the same concept with this $1 million grant. Remember, these guys in that department is going to retire, and no guy's going to move into those spots. And they train. So it's gonna help you as well with getting that grant, putting those firemen in their training, and then when those guys retire, you can move those guys forward. So look at all of that, and I thank for your time, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Martin. I'd like to bring up our police director. Or you have something to say, Tom?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Chief Freeman with the fire department. I'm not up here to argue back and forth about the numbers. You know, I've communicated with you all. You've asked me for my expert opinion on certain things relating to this, and I thought I provided it the best I could. And I'm obviously very disappointed, as are the members of my department. I really just want to look back and say thank you to every one of these guys that's here. I'm going to get emotional. Sorry. But these guys care. That's the reason they're here. They wouldn't make any money in their pocket for this. This grant would provide a safer job for them and a safer environment for the residents in this city. They actually would lose money if we put on more firefighters because they make a lot of money in overtime because we don't have the staff. So anyway, I thank you all for being here to support this and show the city that you guys care about the job. It's not about the money. Like I said, you'd lose money if we hired 12 more firefighters. But you guys care about the job, you care about your safety and the residents' safety too. So I really just wanted to say that, and like I said, I would welcome continued conversations if the mayor and council wish to do that, and would hope that you would reconsider. But thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? I'd like to go ahead. Stay.
evening, Reverend Carolyn Davis. I had no idea this was going on here tonight, but as a community member and a homeowner, I just want to say I support the fire department. As a registered nurse who worked in the hospital, Hackensack Medical Center, one of our biggest concerns was what was going to happen. We had a fire on the 6th floor. One of our concerns, even about all the new condos going up, was what's going to happen to those people, because we know those ladders only go up so far. And I wonder if those people moving in the condos understand that. I was always glad, I said, I don't want to live any higher than I can jump. I'll break a leg, but I support these firemen.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Members of the public? If not, I'd like to bring up our police director, Wade Guidetti, to speak to the juvenile division, because I think there's been some misinformation spread out there as to what's really going on with that, and he's going to speak to that. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, thanks for having me here tonight. And looks like you have a packed house here. I'll certainly speak to what was just brought up by Mr. Martin. I'd like to say, Mr. Martin, I'm glad I got to meet you because I've heard much about you being the first juvenile officer in the state. But I do want to tell you that things have changed substantially. And I think we all recognize this, that the threat environment across the nation has elevated significantly in terms of school shootings. And the unfortunate reality of that is children are killed because of many schools being unprepared to deal with that threat. What we've also found is across the nation that so many of our school shooters don't come across the radar of juvenile detectives. They don't find themselves having a history of juvenile delinquency. So a decision was made just recently in the Hackensack Police Department, and I'll take ownership of that based on my own background. For those that know me, I spent a significant time in the state police, running the investigation branch of the state police, and part of that assignment was counterterrorism. Retiring from the state police, I went on and I did some consulting, particularly with the Department of Homeland Security. And one of those mission sets was actually to build out a national level education program on how to assess threats, particularly in schools, like high schools. Very fortunate when the mayor and council had me come to Hackensack to engage in terms of policing, but at the same time, I recognized that there was an opportunity here to further protect our children in the schools. Many of you are not unfamiliar with a report that came out prior to my arrival by the R3 Strategies and Solutions. They gave an assessment, or they provided an assessment on the police department from soup to nuts. And one of the areas that they described was that someone needed to take a deeper review of the juvenile division. And that someone was me, taking over the helm. And the reason being was that in 2021, the juvenile division had documented a total caseload of about 596 cases. That's pretty significant. And I think Mr. Martin would appreciate those numbers. However, in that time period, there were only 18 juvenile complaints that were signed and only 11 station house adjustments that were conducted. So when I looked at those numbers, I questioned them. But at the same time, I recognized that the juvenile division, its mission set was pretty substantive because they found themselves not only managing SROs, school resource officers, class 3 officers, doing social media, being engaged in the community, and hosting a significant amount of events and engagements to engage with not only the community but the school, which I thought was phenomenal. But I realized, and I'll use this term mission creep, and I know the firefighters in the room understand this, is I started seeing that this mission creep that was taking place in what was the former juvenile bureau or youth bureau that Mr. Martin speaks to, clearly the mission creep was surpassing our own focused capabilities within the juvenile division to protect our schools. So what I did do was I restructured that capability, because I wanted to increase the safety and security in schools and not decrease it. So, and I apologize, Mr. Martin, I'd love to have you in the PD to show you what's going on, but what we have done is we've increased the investigative capacity against juvenile delinquency, but at the same time, we've highlighted the ability to safely secure our schools with not only our uniformed SROs, but also our Class 3s. I feel very comfortable with that, and I'm excited, Mayor and Council, on where this is going to go to be able to better protect our schools. And incidentally, as you're aware, in the last few weeks, we've had some incidents here. We've had an incident where there was a stabbing right outside the school. We had an SRO did a phenomenal job, identified the assailant, and part of that identification has led to a successful investigation. But the problem with that mission creep was that officer then became the primary detective on that, which in a sense removes them from that SRO position in the school. Secondly, we had an officer that was punched in the head in a football game. And to me, that's an affront on security, I should say on liberty, because if a cop can get punched in the head, then any of our residents could as well. So to me, I didn't feel that that was investigated in a timely manner that it should be. And then finally, just in the last couple of days, there was a lockdown at our school. So it shows that there's a lot going on in Hackensack with our schools, with juveniles. I can assure you, I am focused on that. I can assure you that we're going to give it the right capabilities because we care about our kids.
So
Thank you.
it's fair to say, Mr. Guidetti, that we actually have more personnel involved in our juvenile now than we did before?
That's correct. Well, because we're able to leverage more on the investigative side. So, you know, the Attorney General has directives about how to investigate juvenile delinquency. We're conforming to that. But at the same time, and I think I might have mentioned to many of you, is that in today's day and age, when a juvenile is involved in a crime, more than likely there's an adult involved as well. And that, depending on the victim-assailant relationship, it can go either way, whether it's the juvenile being the victim or the juvenile being assailant. So often these investigations are run in concert with investigations with adults as well. So we have talented folks in our investigative division, and I am quite certain that they're going to be able to not only handle crimes that involve juveniles, but do so in a manner that conforms to the Attorney General directive. And at the same time, be able to ensure that we have an unblinking eye on the safety and security of our schools. And that's important to everyone in this room.
Another thing real quick is, Mr. Morgan mentioned privacy for a juvenile going into the station. Does that station, however, still apply where a juvenile is provided privacy for his protection?
Yes, it does, and that's why we conform to the Attorney General's directives. Those directives, we have to comply to them. We've heard before about infrastructure, and we work around the best we can with the infrastructure within the police department, but those mechanisms are in place to conform to the Attorney General's guidelines.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Before I speak to the rest of the council, I have anything to say? Turn my mic off when I was speaking. I was just asking the council if they had any comments before I spoke. So back in January of 2022, there was a meeting with the council where Chief Freeman presented the idea of going out for a safer grant. I wasn't at that meeting, but I know about the meeting. At that meeting, there was an approval for a grant for 5 firefighters by the council, all right? Somewhere along the line, that went from 5 to 12. That changes a lot of things as far as where we're going financially, and you know, it's a different number. We had spoken with the administration about going back and seeing if they could lower the number, and we realized that would probably lower the amount of money. Also, the grant would be smaller. Certainly not going to give us $2.4 million for 5 when it was 12. We understand that. but we still haven't heard back. So what I'm gonna do is I'd like to, let's see where we are with that. So I'm gonna ask Chief and Mr. Nyland to please, let's set up a quick meeting, because I know there was a 30-day extension on this, correct? And we know what's the deadline?
The 21st,
The 21st of November?
yes.
So let's get back to the table and see where we are and see what we can get out of this, right? But it's gotta be a little give and take here, because going from 5 to 12 was the council had no idea until it was presented to us about 2 meetings ago. So, and we want to work with you guys. You guys know me. I see most of you on the job, all right? I appreciate the job and I love the job you guys do. There's no doubt about it. And I know what it's all about because I'm in the safety department in one of the largest hospitals in the state of New Jersey. So I know what it entails. I'm gonna ask that your chief and deputy sit with us and we'll see where we go with this, all right? So give us some time. We got to the 21st. We'll work our tails off to work out something, all right? But just understand this, going from 5 to 12 unknowns and being presented in a meeting like that was, you know, you just can't say, oh, you got 12, good. It doesn't work like that. There's numbers that had to be worked out. We're also gonna have Mr. Mangan sit at this table as well. We'll set up this meeting as fast as possible. I'd like 2 council members there, whether it's myself and one other. That's fine, but let's get that done, all right? So let's set it up ASAP. All right?
Okay. I got,
Yeah, and I would welcome that, Mayor. But I want to set the record straight here. I don't take direction from any elected officials as per the government rules. I take directive from the city manager. He's my boss.
Understood.
1 week after that meeting you referenced in March, the city manager gave me approval to request 12 firefighters with this grant. So I want that on the record. This was not a rogue move on my part. This was from the city manager, my boss.
Understood. And that was actually, when did I find out about that, Deputy Mayor? I found out about that today, because I was totally aware.
I just don't want it to be misconstrued that we took it upon ourselves.
But that said, it was the way it was addressed to me, or the way it was told to me was that apply for 12, hoping we get maybe 6. That's the way it was told, expressed to me. So that still leaves us with looking at a lower number and getting almost twice as, or more than twice as many. So let's get back to the table and work on it. That's what we do. We work.
Okay.
All right? Thank you, guys. Thanks for everybody coming out tonight. And I know I'll see a lot of you within the week at the hospital, so get home safe. Have a good night. Go watch the World Series. Need a motion to close to the public. Roll call?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg. Aye. Deputy Mayor Canestrino. Aye. Councilmember Pataglia. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor LaBrus.
Aye. All right, we'll see everybody at, motion to
It
close
executive.
the executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jared. Councilmember Carroll.
Motion, motion to close the council of the whole. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. See everybody at 8.